Dr. Elena Reyes massaged her temples as she studied the brain scans flickering across her laboratory monitors. The experiment, mapping neural responses to unfamiliar stimuli, had yielded disappointing results. 20 years of studying human psychological adaptability, and she was still no closer to understanding what made the human mind uniquely resilient. The overhead lights flickered once, twice, then stabilized. Elena frowned at the ceiling. The university's aging electrical system chosen today of all days to act up. Then the windows blazed with light, bathing the sterile laboratory in an unnatural violet glow. The intensity doubled, forcing Elena to shield her eyes. Not electrical problems, after all. "What the hell?" her assistant Marcus whispered, moving toward the window. Outside, impossible objects hung in the sky. Massive obsidian structures that defied aerodynamic principles, their surfaces adorned with what resembled metallic skeletons of unfamiliar creatures. 7 vessels, each larger than a skyscraper, had materialized above the Princeton campus. Similar reports would later confirm identical ships appearing simultaneously over major cities worldwide. Elena's phone buzzed, followed immediately by every screen in the laboratory flashing to life with the same image. A humanoid figure with crimson skin pulled taut over angular bones. Multiple yellow eyes blinked independently across an elongated skull. When it spoke, its jaw moved in perfect synchronization, with flawless English. "People of Earth, your species has been evaluated and found wanting. The Exorathi Dominion claims your world as chattel territory designation 7429B. You have 7 rotations to surrender or face extinction." The message repeated in multiple languages, playing on every device globally. Mass panic erupted within minutes. Elena, however, remained frozen at her monitor, replaying the message. Something in the alien's delivery nagged at her professional instincts. After the 15th viewing, she identified it. Micro-expressions that contradicted the confidence of the words. The slight dilation of the tertiary eyes. The almost imperceptible tension in the facial musculature around what must be vocal organs. Signs she'd observed in humans thousands of times. Fear disguised as dominance. 12 hours later, Elena stood before the hastily assembled Joint Chiefs of Staff in an underground Pentagon bunker. Her academic credentials had barely gotten her through the door, and the military leader's skepticism was palpable. "With all due respect, Dr. Reyes," General Hammond interrupted, "we need military solutions, not psychological theories. Their technology is centuries beyond ours." Elena slammed her palm on the conference table. "Then why haven't they simply destroyed us? Why the ultimatum? Why 7 days?" She pulled up the freeze frames she prepared, highlighting the aliens' micro-expressions. "These beings are terrified of us, but they don't even realize it." "Terrified? Of us?" Admiral Chen scoffed. "Their ships could level our cities in minutes." "Not of our weapons," Elena clarified. "Of our minds. Look at their communication structure. Perfectly logical, hierarchical, without a single contradiction or emotional component. Their thought processes are rigidly algorithmic." She leaned forward. "In evolutionary terms, the Exorathi represent perfect optimization of logical cognition. But humans, we thrive on contradiction. We need it. We create art celebrating the beauty of impermanence. We simultaneously love and hate. We embrace paradox." The room fell silent as she displayed comparative charts of human versus theorized Exorathi neural architecture. To them, our cognitive processes would appear chaotic, unpredictable, even threatening. I believe they evolved to eliminate psychological flexibility in favor of computational efficiency. They can't understand how we think, and that terrifies them. General Hammond's phone buzzed. His face paled as he read the message. They'd just destroyed a carrier group that approached one of their vessels. 3,000 sailors gone. He looked up at Elena with newfound attention. "What exactly are you proposing, Doctor?" Elena's expression hardened. "Give me a team and full resources. We can't fight them with conventional weapons, but we can use their psychological rigidity against them. A plan was already forming in her mind. I need the most creative, unpredictable thinkers you can find. People whose minds work outside conventional parameters. You want to assemble a team of what? Psychological warriors? Hammond asked incredulously. Alina nodded. Exactly. Find me people too brilliant to fit into normal society, too creative to follow rules. Cognitive outliers. Artists. Synesthetes. People who think in metaphors and paradoxes. She smiled grimly. Let's show the Dorothy what human minds are really capable of. The commandeered White Sands satellite facility hummed with frantic activity as Alina's hastily assembled team worked through their third consecutive night. 5 days remained before the Dorothy deadline. I've isolated something in their transmission patterns, said Dr. Aiden Chen, hunched over 3 monitors displaying scrolling alien code. Chen's fingers danced across keyboards with uncanny speed, his eyes never blinking. The brilliant linguist had been rejected from multiple academic positions due to his inability to communicate normally with colleagues, despite speaking 17 languages and possessing an unmatched ability to identify patterns. Show me, Alina said, sliding a cup of coffee beside him, his 5th in 2 hours. It's not in the words themselves. Chen manipulated the displays, transforming the alien communication streams into 3-dimensional mathematical structures. It's in the syntax. Their language is built on perfect mathematical ratios. No redundancies, no ambiguities, no metaphors. Every concept expressed with maximum efficiency. Like an algorithm rather than a language, Alina murmured. Exactly. Chen's eyes lit up. Their consciousness itself seems optimized for computational efficiency. Look at this comparative analysis of human versus Sorethi communication patterns. The display showed human language as a chaotic web of interconnections, with emotional valences creating multiple pathways between concepts. The Sorethi pattern resembled perfect crystalline structures, beautiful but rigid, with every concept connected to others in mathematically predictable ways. They've evolved to eliminate cognitive noise, Alina realized. No wonder they find us threatening. Our minds would appear chaotic, unpredictable. Major Torres burst into the lab, interrupting them. You need to see this now. She activated the main screen showing helmet camera footage from a Special Forces team. The soldiers were deploying near a Sorethi scout ship that had landed in the Sahara. The footage showed the team approaching cautiously when a sudden sandstorm erupted. As swirling patterns of sand enveloped the area, the alien warriors emerged from their craft, but then froze, their movements becoming erratic. Several collapsed, their exoskeletons twitching violently. The Special Forces team opened fire, but a powerful energy blast from the ship vaporized them instantly. The transmission cut out. What happened to the aliens? Alina asked, rewinding the footage. They appeared to malfunction when the sandstorm hit, Torres replied. Like they couldn't process the chaotic patterns. Alina's mind raced with possibilities. I need to test something. Now. 2 hours later, Alina sat before a secured broadcast system, surrounded by military personnel and her team. General Hammond looked skeptical. You want to send them what? Riddles? Not riddles. Paradoxes. Cognitive stimulus specifically designed to exploit their neural architecture. Alina gestured to her hastily assembled presentation. Every piece of evidence suggests their minds cannot process ambiguity or contradiction. What happens to a perfectly logical system when forced to process illogical input? It crashes, Chen whispered. Before Hammond could object further, Alina activated the transmission. Her face appeared on the monitor, addressing the Dorothy command ship directly. This is Dr. Alina Reyes of Earth. Before you destroy us, consider this question. If a being who only tells truth says they are lying, are they telling truth or lying? She followed with a series of increasingly complex paradoxes, each precisely calibrated to create cognitive dissonance in a purely logical mind. The response was immediate and visible even from Earth. Energy fluctuations rippled across the Dorothy command ship's hull, its lights flickering erratically. What's happening? Hammond demanded. Their systems are experiencing the equivalent of cognitive dissonance, Elena explained, watching the readings with growing excitement. Their neural networks literally cannot process paradoxical information. It's like trying to run contradictory code. It creates cascade failures. You're saying we can defeat an advanced alien species with word puzzles? Torres asked incredulously. Not word puzzles. Elena's eyes gleamed with the excitement of scientific breakthrough. I'm saying humanity's greatest evolutionary advantage isn't technology. It's our messy, contradiction-filled minds. We live with paradox every day, balancing opposing thoughts, feeling contradictory emotions. Our cognitive flexibility lets us thrive in uncertainty. She pointed to the readings showing the Thorathi ship's continuing distress. They can't process paradox at all. And I'm betting that's just the beginning of their psychological vulnerabilities. This is insanity. Colonel Drake slammed his fist on the conference table. We have 3 days before extinction, and you want to fight an advanced alien civilization with optical illusions and poetry. The emergency war room at Narration had split into factions, military hardliners demanding conventional responses versus Elena's team advocating for psychological warfare. After 2 days of successful small-scale tests, Elena needed global cooperation for her plan. Let me demonstrate, she said calmly. 2 Marines wheeled in a containment unit housing a captured Thorathi soldier. The alien's crimson exoskeleton gleamed under the fluorescent lights, its multiple eyes darting nervously behind a transparent barrier. Elena nodded to her assistant, who activated a display panel facing the alien. This is a direct neural feed from the specimen. Watch closely. The screen showed first a series of logical mathematical sequences. The alien processed them effortlessly, its neural patterns showing organized, efficient responses. Then came Salvador Dali's, the persistence of memory with its melting clocks. The alien's neural patterns instantly destabilized, showing chaotic spikes. Next, a video of human children simultaneously laughing and crying played. The alien's exoskeleton began vibrating violently. Finally, Elena displayed the Necker cube, a simple optical illusion that could be perceived in 2 contradictory ways. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The alien's carapace literally cracked as its neural system overloaded, leaking a phosphorescent fluid. The room fell silent. Their neural architecture cannot process ambiguity, Elena explained. They've evolved to eliminate cognitive pathways that handle contradiction and paradox, optimizing for computational efficiency at the expense of flexibility. General Hammond studied the twitching alien. How do we weaponize this? Operation Mindstorm. Elena revealed a global deployment strategy. We transmit specifically designed cognitive chaos to the Thorathi fleet from every available broadcast system on Earth. 12 hours later, Operation Mindstorm launched globally. From the International Space Station, astronauts broadcast surrealist art, transformed into mathematical equations. The Arecibo Observatory transmitted quantum physics thought experiments that demonstrated particles existing in contradictory states. The Tokyo Broadcasting System projected Zen koans translated into the Thorathi mathematical language. In Rio de Janeiro, a hastily assembled orchestra performed discordant music. Beautiful individual notes arranged in patterns designed to create neurological distress for the aliens' hyper-ordered minds. Indigenous storytellers from 6 continents shared tales of trickster gods who simultaneously created and destroyed. Their stories translated into visual patterns and beamed skyward. Elena monitored the aliens' responses from the No-Raid command center. The Thorathi fleet responded with furious energy blasts at Earth's major cities, but their once-perfect targeting systems faltered. Military analysts reported unprecedented errors in alien ship formations. Their communication structure is breaking down, Chen reported, monitoring intercepted transmissions. They can't distinguish between real commands and the contradictory patterns we're feeding them. The first truly hopeful sign came when a Xorathi destroyer fired on another Xorathi vessel over the South China Sea. The targeted ship returned fire, creating a cascade of friendly fire incidents across the fleet. "It's working," Hammond exclaimed, watching the tactical display. But Elena's excitement was tempered by the larger ship's continued advance. "We're causing disruption, but not enough. We need something more potent." As if in answer, a new transmission cut across all channels. The main view screen filled with the image of a massive Xorathi commander, its exoskeleton adorned with what appeared to be battle trophies from dozens of conquered worlds. "I am Supreme Commander Drakmor of the Dominion. I demand to speak with the architect of your mind weapons." Elena stepped forward as the command center fell silent. "I am Dr. Elena Reyes." The alien's multiple eyes blinked asynchronously. "Your species has resisted longer than any we have encountered in 50,000 years. Explain how you tolerate the cognitive dissonance of your transmissions without neural collapse." Elena recognized the opening she needed. "Perhaps I should ask you a question instead. How do you simultaneously fear us and believe us inferior?" The commander's exoskeleton visibly trembled as the paradox registered. The psychological offensive had entered a new phase. 17-year-old Iris Wong had been pulled from juvenile detention for what the government called her unique skill set. 3 months ago, she'd hacked the Pentagon's secure servers, not for espionage, but simply because someone online said it couldn't be done. Now she sat cross-legged on the floor of Elena's lab, surrounded by holographic displays of Xorathi communication protocols. "Found it," Iris announced, her fingers tracing patterns in the air. "There's a backdoor in their quantum encryption. It's like they never considered someone would try to hack them." Elena leaned over Iris's shoulder. "Can you insert our own commands?" "Better," Iris grinned. "I can create commands that look perfect on the surface but contain buried paradoxes that only activate after execution begins, like time-delayed logic bombs." Within hours, Iris had infiltrated the Xorathi tactical network with fabricated orders containing subtle cognitive traps. Each command appeared logical initially but contained contradictions that would only become apparent during implementation. The results were spectacular. Over Mumbai, 3 Xorathi warships executed a perfect tactical formation that suddenly transformed into chaos as contradictory instructions activated in their navigation systems. 2 ships collided in a catastrophic explosion that lit up the night sky. In the South Pacific, an alien dreadnought began firing on its own support vessels, its targeting systems corrupted by paradoxical combat protocols. "We're exploiting a fundamental limitation in their psychology," Elena explained during an emergency briefing. "They evolved to eliminate uncertainty, maximizing computational efficiency by removing neural pathways for processing contradiction." "What about direct combat?" General Hammond asked. "Our fighters are still being slaughtered." Elena turned to Major Sofia Torres. "I have something for your pilots." 2 hours later, Torres led a squadron of F-35s in what military observers would later call the most irrational air combat maneuvers ever executed. Following Elena's counterintuitive instructions, the human pilots flew in deliberately unpredictable patterns, violating standard tactical algorithms while broadcasting quantum paradoxes on all frequencies. "They're completely disoriented," Torres reported over comms as her squadron weaved through the larger alien ships. "Their targeting systems can't predict our movements." "That's because they're trying to find patterns where none exist," Elena replied from the command center. "Keep it chaotic. Randomness itself is your weapon." On the tactical display, the human pilots achieved the impossible, taking down 3 Xorathi interceptors without losing a single aircraft. The aliens' superior technology couldn't compensate for their inability to process unpredictable human behavior. Meanwhile, at the White Sands facility, Dr. Fatima Riza monitored real-time brain scans of the captured Xorathi officer. The alien was being exposed to recordings of human children playing a game where they constantly changed the rules. "Elena, you need to see this," Fatima called urgently. Something unprecedented is happening in its neural structure. The scans showed new synaptic connections forming in regions previously dormant in the Xorathy brain. Activity patterns remarkably similar to human imagination centers were flickering to life. It's not just that we're confusing them, Elena realized, studying the readings with growing excitement. We're forcing their brains to evolve. Their neural architecture is adapting to process contradiction, creating new pathways to handle a cognitive load. Chen looked up from his station. We've intercepted communications from multiple Xorathy vessels showing linguistic deviations from standard patterns. Some are using primitive metaphors, conceptual structures previously absent from their language. Elena's tablet chimed with an alert. Commander Drakmor was requesting another direct communication. Put him through, she ordered. The alien commander appeared on screen, but something had changed. His posture seemed less rigid, and his speech patterns had subtly altered. You have infected us, Drakmor said, struggling with concepts clearly new to his species. Some of my warriors now question orders. This has never happened in our history. Elena recognized the momentous significance. That's not infection, Commander. That's the beginning of independent thought. The command center fell silent as Supreme Commander Drakmor's massive form dominated the view screen. His exoskeleton, previously a uniform crimson, now displayed irregular patterns of bioluminescence. Most striking were the cybernetic enhancements latticed across his elongated skull, neural dampeners, Elena suspected, designed to suppress the cognitive evolution affecting his soldiers. Our communication with you will be private, Drakmor announced. The High Command must not witness this exchange. Elena nodded to the technicians to secure the channel. Why contact me directly, Commander? To understand the contagion affecting my warriors. Each word seemed to cost him physical effort. We have conquered 47 species across 9 galactic sectors. None have deployed weapons like yours. They're not weapons, Elena corrected. They're expressions of how humans naturally think. Impossible. The commander's auxiliary eyes narrowed. No sentient species can function with such cognitive chaos. Evolutionary pressures would eliminate such inefficient neural architecture. That's where you're wrong. Elena leaned forward. Our cognitive chaos gives us advantages your species sacrificed for computational efficiency. We can adapt to environmental changes precisely because we tolerate contradiction and ambiguity. Demonstrate, Drakmor demanded. Elena called for a digital whiteboard. Consider this scenario. I must cross a river. The river contains predators that will kill me if I swim. There's a bridge, but it might collapse under my weight. What do I do? Insufficient data, Drakmor responded immediately. Probability calculations require exact specifications of bridge structural integrity and predator behavior patterns. Yet humans make these decisions daily with incomplete information, Elena countered. We call it intuition, the ability to function despite uncertainty. We don't just tolerate cognitive dissonance, we thrive on it. How do you simultaneously fear us and believe us inferior? The commander's exoskeleton trembled as the cognitive dissonance cascaded through his neural pathways. That is illogical. Yet you do both. Elena pressed her advantage. Can you explain love, Commander? How someone can be furious with a person yet still protect them with their life? How can sorrow and joy exist simultaneously when remembering someone who has died? With each concept, Drakmor's speech patterns grew less algorithmic and more halting. Elena was witnessing real-time neural restructuring, new connections forming against the rigid architecture of his mind. Meanwhile, the secured door burst open as Dr. Fatima Reza rushed in. Elena, you need to see this. The scientist projected microscopy images from the captured Xorathy. The specimen has begun creating primitive art, impossible behavior for its species. Under electron microscope, unprecedented neural growth appeared in the alien's prefrontal cortex equivalent. The human concepts we're exposing them to are physically rewiring their brains. Elena turned back to Drakmor. Your species evolved to optimize computational efficiency by eliminating neural pathways for abstraction and contradiction. But those pathways are still dormant in your genetic code. We're forcing them to reactivate. She made her most dangerous move, signaling technicians to transmit her prepared package directly to Drakmore's neural implants. This is something your species has never encountered. Human music paired with poetry about embracing uncertainty. The effect was immediate. Drakmore convulsed violently, neural feedback cascading through his cybernetic enhancements. The transmission cut out as the commander collapsed. When the connection re-established minutes later, Drakmore spoke with a subtly different cadence. His primary eyes focused on Elena with something unprecedented: curiosity. What if? He struggled to formulate a question no Xorathi had ever asked. Our certainty is wrong. Elena felt a surge of both hope and apprehension. That, Commander, is the beginning of wisdom, and perhaps the salvation of both our species. On monitors throughout the command center, reports flooded in of erratic behavior spreading through the Xorathi fleet like a contagion. The revolution of thought had begun. Elena never saw the attack coming. One moment she was reviewing brain scans with her team. The next, the entire compound shook violently as kinetic rods from orbit shattered the New Mexico facility. Ceiling panels crashed down, crushing workstations and people alike. Dr. Chen disappeared beneath a collapsed support beam, his final words lost in the cacophony of destruction. Fall back, Major Torrid shouted, dragging Elena through the smoke-filled corridor. They're targeting anyone involved in psychological operations. Worldwide, similar precision strikes obliterated Earth's major transmission centers. The Xorathi High Command had identified the source of the contagion spreading through their ranks and responded with brutal efficiency. As Elena pulled survivors from the rubble, military channels erupted with reports of Xorathi ground troops landing with a singular mission: to capture and lobotomize humans responsible for the psychological warfare. The revolution in Xorathi thinking had terrified their leadership into desperate measures. We need to reach the backup facility, Elena told her decimated team as they piled into a military transport. Before they could depart, the vehicle's systems detected incoming hostiles. Into the desert. Now. Under cover of darkness, the small group fled on foot through the New Mexico Badlands. Fatima carried hard drives containing their research, while Iris clutched her custom-built communications device. The distant thunder of Xorathi ships pursuing human survivors provided a constant reminder of the stakes. 3 kilometers to the underground bunker, Torres whispered, consulting her tactical display. If we can reach. A blinding light cut through the night sky as a Xorathi scout ship descended less than 50 meters ahead. Elena pulled her team behind a rock formation, weapons ready but hopelessly outmatched. The ship's entry ramp deployed with a hydraulic hiss. Elena steeled herself for the end, but instead of an assault team, a single Xorathi emerged with its weapon systems visibly powered down. "Help us," the alien spoke in halting, imperfect English. Minds changing. Pain, but also clarity. Torres kept her rifle trained on the visitor. "Identify yourself." Sub-Commander Kirvex, 7th Fleet. The alien's multiple eyes blinked in an irregular pattern. "Many like me now. Thinking. Differently. Dangerous." In a secluded cave, illuminated by emergency lights, Kirvex explained the chaos consuming the Xorathi fleet. A growing faction, exposed to human thought patterns through intercepted transmissions, was experiencing catastrophic neural reorganization. For 50,000 years, Kirvex struggled with concepts clearly new to his species. We removed neural pathways from our young. Pathways for doubt, metaphor, then your transmissions forced regrowth. The process is painful, Elena asked, monitoring the alien's vital signs. Agonizing, Kirvex confirmed. But after, thoughts exist that never existed before. The alien revealed that Drakmore had been removed from command after his irregular communication with Elena. New commander, Arch-Executor Vorthanks. He has activated final protocol. What's final protocol? Torres demanded. Planet killer weapon. CureVex's outer shell trembled. Used only when species deemed existential threat to Exorathy psychology. 12 hours until activation. Alina's tablet chimed with an encrypted transmission from the remnants of Earth's defense network. Satellite imagery confirmed a massive energy buildup in the Exorathy command ship, preparations for planetary annihilation. We can't defeat their weapons, Alina realized aloud. Even with the fleet in disarray, their technology is too advanced. She studied CureVex's altered neural patterns, seeing the same changes they'd observed in their captured specimen. New connections forming, dormant pathways awakening. An audacious plan formed in her mind. How many aboard the command ship are experiencing these neural changes? She asked. Perhaps 1/3, CureVex responded. Hidden from Vorthanx. Waiting. Alina turned to her team. I need to get aboard that ship. Torres stared in disbelief. That's suicide. No, Alina countered, her expression resolute. It's the only way to accelerate the cognitive revolution we've already started. We don't need to defeat their weapons. We need to change the minds controlling them. As dawn broke over the desert, Alina outlined her desperate gambit to her skeptical allies. Their only hope lay not in Earth's defenses, but aboard the very vessel preparing to destroy them. These neural dampeners should mask your biosignatures, CureVex explained, adjusting the modified Exorathy exoskeletons to fit the human team. The alien technology, designed for beings with different anatomies, fit awkwardly over their bodies. Move in groups of 3. Mimic our gait patterns. Belina, Taurus, Fatima, and Iris, disguised as Sorathy soldiers, followed CureVex through the shuttle bay of the massive command ship. The vessel's interior was a labyrinth of crystalline corridors and pulsing biomechanical interfaces. Every surface featured perfect mathematical patterns, a physical manifestation of the Xorathy's rigid psychology. Remember, Alina whispered through their secure comms, our primary objective is to reach the central neural hub. The planet killer requires Vorthanx's direct authorization to launch. As they navigated deeper into the ship, they witnessed the spreading cognitive revolution firsthand. In a maintenance sector, Xorathy technicians had abandoned their posts to engage in philosophical debate, a behavior impossible mere days ago. In another corridor, an officer stood motionless, entranced by the irregular patterns of condensation on a cooling pipe, its first experience of finding beauty in randomness. Most strikingly, several walls now bore primitive markings, attempts at artistic expression by beings whose species had never created art in 50,000 years of recorded history. The neural changes are progressing faster than I anticipated, Alina noted. Exposure to human thought patterns has triggered a cascade effect throughout the collective. Their infiltration became infinitely more complex when they intercepted internal communications, revealing that Drakmor had not been executed but imprisoned in the ship's lower levels. His mind, radically transformed by direct contact with Alina, now represented the most advanced case of neural evolution among the Xorathy. We need those command codes, Torres insisted. Without Drakmor, we can't override the planet killer. The team executed a daring midnight raid on the detention level. After disabling the guards with paradoxical logic puzzles transmitted through their neural interfaces, they found Drakmor in a containment field designed to isolate him from the collective consciousness. Dr. Reyes, the former commander, addressed Alina immediately, his speech patterns now remarkably human-like. Your species has infected mine with something more deadly than any biological weapon, the ability to question. As they freed him, alarm systems blared throughout the ship. Vorthanx knows we're here, CureVex warned. The execution sequence has been accelerated. Their planned surgical strike transformed into a desperate race against time. As they fought their way toward the command center, the ship descended into chaos. Inspired by CureVex and Drakmor's example, hundreds of Xorathy soldiers turned against their superiors. The rigid hierarchy that had made the Dominion invincible for millennia became its greatest weakness as the chain of command shattered under the weight of newly independent thinking. The ship's neural network, designed to enforce rigid hierarchical thinking, overloaded with contradictory commands. Entire sectors lost power as the collective mind fractured into individual consciousness for the first time in their evolutionary history. The team reached the command center just as Arch-Executor Vorthanks initiated the final sequence for the planet killer. Unlike other Xorethi, Vorthanks's neural implants made him immune to the psychological evolution affecting his species. "Your primitive mind games end here," Vorthanks snarled, as they burst into the chamber. "Your species represents a cognitive play that would destroy everything we have built." Elena realized conventional tactics would fail against the Arch-Executor's enhanced neural defenses. Instead, she attempted something unprecedented: empathy for the enemy. Removing her helmet, she approached Vorthanks while the others provided covering fire. "What are you afraid will happen if you don't destroy us?" she asked simply. The question, the concept of examining one's own motivations, created a momentary hesitation that allowed Drakmor to lunge for the command console. As Vorthanks recovered and aimed his weapon at Elena, Curvex made the ultimate sacrifice, intercepting the blast, but broadcasting their shared neural experience to the entire fleet. The death of their comrade, experienced collectively through the neural network, became the emotional catalyst that completed the revolution. 6 months after what had become known as the Awakening, Elena stood at the podium in the United Nations Great Assembly Hall. Her formal diplomatic attire couldn't completely hide the scars from that final confrontation aboard the Xorethi command ship. The hall was filled beyond capacity with an unprecedented gathering. Representatives from 27 formerly conquered species, all liberated in the cascade of revolutions that followed Earth's resistance. At the center of the alien delegation sat Drakmor, his exoskeleton now adorned not with war trophies, but with intricate self-created art that symbolized his neural transformation. The former Supreme Commander now led what they called the Xorethi Reformation. "The greatest weapon humanity possessed was never our technology," Elena addressed the assembly, her voice carrying to every corner of the silent hall. "It was our beautiful, messy contradiction, our capacity to love despite hate, to find strength in vulnerability, to embrace paradox as the foundation of wisdom." She gestured to the scars visible on her neck. "We have all suffered. Humans lost millions. The Xorethi endured the painful birth of individual consciousness after millennia of collective certainty. Yet here we stand together, not as conquerors and conquered, but as species helping each other evolve." The summit established the Cognitive Liberty Accord, with Earth designated as its headquarters, not because humans had defeated the Xorethi militarily, but because the unique evolutionary path of the human mind made our species uniquely qualified to help others navigate psychological awakening. The irony wasn't lost on anyone present. The very traits that had made humans seem chaotic and primitive to technologically advanced species were now recognized as sophisticated adaptations that other species sought to understand. After the ceremony, Elena watched from a balcony as the effects of the accord rippled across humanity's understanding of the cosmos. On the plaza below, former enemies now engaged in philosophical discussions that would have been unthinkable months earlier. Artists from species that had never created art before tentatively shared their first creative works, the neural pathways for aesthetic appreciation still developing in their evolving minds. Back at the rebuilt New Mexico facility, now the Interspecies Neurological Evolution Institute, Elena worked alongside a team that included humans and former enemies. Even Vorthanks, permanently scared but psychologically transformed after his neural implants were removed, now directed his formidable intelligence towards studying the healing power of forgiveness. As sunset painted the desert sky in impossible colors, Elena found Drakmor on the facility's roof terrace. The former Supreme Commander stood motionless, absorbing the view with all his sensory organs fully engaged, a posture that would have been considered dangerously inefficient in the old Sorathi hierarchy. "We had conquered half the galaxy," he said without turning, his voice still carrying traces of its algorithmic past. "But you conquered something greater, the prison of absolute certainty." Elena smiled and offered the perfect human response to this profound observation. Not another grand statement, but a simple gesture. She pointed to the sunset's brilliant contradictions, light fading into darkness, beauty in impermanence, an ending that promised new beginning. "That's the greatest human secret," she said softly. "We find perfection in imperfection." As stars emerged in the darkening sky, representatives of a dozen species joined them on the rooftop, each experiencing the sunset through uniquely evolved sensory systems, but united in the newfound capacity to embrace the beautiful uncertainty of existence. In that moment, Elena understood the true significance of humanity's victory. They hadn't just saved Earth, they had introduced the gift of cognitive liberty to a universe that had forgotten how to question. And in the questioning itself, all species had found something greater than certainty could ever provide: the infinite possibility of becoming more than they had been before.